The Ural Mountains, stretching over 2,500 kilometers in Russia, are a magnificent sight to behold. The mountain range is known for separating Europe from Asia and boasts dense forests, towering peaks, and steep slopes. However, due to the treacherous terrain, the Ural Mountains are not recommended for a scenic hike, especially during the winter months. When winter sets in, the mountains transform into an icy labyrinth. The cold can freeze the very marrow in your bones, and deep crevasses are waiting to swallow up the unsuspecting. The Ural Mountains are also notorious for their wildly unpredictable weather, where even a calm day can swiftly give way to treacherous blizzards. The snow can bury landmarks, and the wind can pick up to incredible speeds, making it difficult to keep track of your location for even the most seasoned of hikers. However, Igor Dyatlov was a seasoned hiker, and he was a man who loved the challenge. At 23, he was just about finished his studies in radio engineering at the Ural Polytechnical Institute, and he was ready for an adventure. This is what led him, ultimately, to form a team of 9 other hikers and set off towards those mountains on that fateful night of January 25th, 1959. Despite the harsh winter conditions, they were a group of young and experienced hikers motivated to achieve their goal of completing a 300-kilometer hike and earning their Grade 3 hiking certification, which was the highest available level in the Soviet Union. Their spirits were high as they aimed to experience that raw power and beauty of nature and maybe to achieve something that had never been done before. However, their expedition began to take a tragic turn when one of the young hikers, Guryutin, at 21, began to experience severe joint pain. After a few days, his condition worsened, and with a heavy heart, Yuri was forced to leave the group and head back home alone. Probably felt horrible as Yuri watched the group vanish off into the unforgiving wilderness, thinking, oh my god, all my friends are going on this big adventure and I have to miss out. Little did he know that his pain could have been a miracle in disguise, because Yuri would be the only group member to make it back home alive. It would be on the night of February 2nd, 1959, that the hikers would take their last set of photos. A couple of them had brought cameras with them, throughout the expedition, most likely to capture memories they would cherish for a lifetime. Memories of their big adventure. Here they're seen on the side of the mountain Kohat Sikel, digging a platform for their tent. I apologize because I definitely did not pronounce that name correctly, but that name is actually in the language of the indigenous Siberian tribe to that land, the Munsi people. And the reason I wanted to include it, although I clearly cannot pronounce it, is because the translation is very interesting. See, the name actually translates to Dead Mountain or Mountain of the Dead, which I just found a horrifying omen considering how things were about to go down. I'm not trying to laugh, it's crazy, okay? And it's actually even said that before this incident, the Munsi people refused to go near that mountain as they regarded it as haunted. If someone tells you not to go somewhere, especially if they're indigenous to that land, maybe just don't. Maybe just let's not take the risk. But anyways, it is unfortunate that this case just serves as an example of that truth, because it would be about 3 weeks after the group pitched their tent into the side of Dead Mountain that tent would be found abandoned and cut apart from the inside. Now, the cutting apart of the tent from the inside would just be the first in a series of red flags indicating something seriously bizarre had gone down. What on earth could have driven them to slice their way out of the safety of their tent and face the lethal cold with such desperation? When they found the bodies, they were not in any of their winter gear. They were chilling, quite literally chilling, in just their underwear in the negative 30 degrees Celsius Russian winter in the mountains. And just to remind you, these were very experienced hikers. It's not like they didn't know what they were doing. They were literally one trip away from the highest level of certification available at the time in the Soviet Union. So it makes no sense why they would do something like this, right? So let's get into exactly what was discovered with every single victim. The first 2 of the 9 bodies were discovered at the tree line, which is about 1,500 meters from the abandoned campsite. Despite their proximity to shelter and evidence of a fire, The cause of death for both of those victims was ruled to be hypothermia. Another trio opted for a bolder strategy, venturing about halfway back to the tent. Approximately 500 meters away is where they were found. However, it seems as though hypothermia claimed them as well, and one of those victims actually also suffered a fractured skull. When it comes to the other 4 victims, interestingly enough, they were actually not discovered for another 2 months after the initial search. So those bodies were found 2 months later, buried under 4 meters of snow, face down in a creek, a couple of kilometers away from the initial scene. This is where things get really creepy. These victims were found with serious internal injuries like fractured skulls, crushed ribs, and there was actually a woman found without her tongue. 2 of the victims were also missing their eyeballs. Horrifying. Horrifying. Literally, how does that even happen to you in the middle of the mountains? You know what I mean? Like, what possibly could have caused that? Beats me. I don't know. Still not the weirdest part about this, because those victims were actually found to be wearing the clothing of the initial victims from the 2 months prior. So remember how those victims were found in just their underwear? These ones were wearing their clothing. And weirder still, when that clothing was tested, it was determined that it was actually radioactive. Like, the clothing itself had radioactive properties for some reason. Literally, who knows why? But of course, why wouldn't it at this point? Honestly, what am I expecting, right? And Geiger counters just start buzzing with elevated radiation levels, indicating now that the entire scene had traces of radioactivity. So the entire campsite they were on had traces of this radioactivity. And what began as a simple question, why would they cut the tent open from the inside, is now spiraling into so many different questions. I mean, why were there radiation levels everywhere? What was going on with the clothes? How did they sustain these internal injuries? And seriously, where is that woman's tongue? Hello? Officially, it was found 6 of the hikers had passed due to hypothermia, and 3 had passed due to traumatic internal injuries. The 3 who faced internal injuries were the ones who were discovered 2 months later, and their injuries were actually likened to victims of a bomb's shockwave, which, horrifying. In my head, something had to have happened with, like, a bomb or, like, a because how did they have this kind of impact internal injuries as if there was a bomb and they have radiation, like, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, seems like investigators and government officials at the time were really urging for this case to be closed as quickly as possible. It seemed that, you know, because there were no valuables missing and there were no external injuries, they were saying, like, obviously it wasn't a person who came and did this, so let's just close the case. Like, we're not gonna figure this out, which sus in my opinion, but okay. So the case was eventually closed, with the official cause of death being ruled as a compelling unknown force. Autopsy reports and investigations may have provided some answers, yet the question lingers despite the case's official closure. What truly transpired on that fateful night on Dead Mountain? Almost 70 years later, the Dyatlov Pass incident still refuses to yield its secrets. And the case's official closure, marked by the ominous phrase, "a compelling unknown force," only deepens the mystery. I hope you all have enjoyed learning about this case just as much as I have, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye.